Back to Kyle Dubas, and one of the things that stuck with me in the conversation with Kyle was he was talking about the last little while as something that this group specifically had to learn from and had to get through it together. And my thought process was, like, you faced Boston in each of the last two postseasons, and if someone were to teach you the way to go about it in this league, I think Boston's a great place to start. I know the team is young, but do you think they should have already learned those lessons about effort and consistency and how to go from good to great?
Well, I heard most of the interview, and I believe that Kyle believes most of what he said. He's an honest guy. He's a good guy. When he says he believes in their roster construction, I believe that he does. I think he thinks in the modern game, the analytics games take over, and his players are better suited to win than a team built otherwise. But I also think he's made a concession to size, bringing in Muzzin, bringing in Clifford. I think he realizes, like, he's not dumb. He's smart.
Right.
I think he realizes, okay, analytics are great, but we still need some size, and we still need to be able to respond. So I watched the 3 games. So I was at the first Pittsburgh game, and they were awful. And then I watched, we did the first Pittsburgh game.
Tuesday night.
Right.
Tuesday night. Wednesday night hockey on Tuesday night.
Correct.
And then I watched the Thursday night game, and they were excellent. And the difference in the games is the player has to move about 2 or 3 feet from where he was the first night to where he is the second night to be effective defensively and pay greater attention to detail, stay inside the dots, get between a man and the puck instead of standing behind him. And they did all the little things, and they paid the physical price, and they played a great game, maybe their best game of the year. So I'm like, okay, good. Whatever that funk was on Tuesday, they're out of it. And then Saturday, we did that game, and you lose to a beer league goaltender. I mean, so 2 issues about Saturday. One, the league's got to fix that whole emergency backup goalie thing. That's not the Leafs' fault. And by the way, the Leafs would have had to use the same guy, so it's not there's no competitive thing. But they've got to have an established goalie. I mean,
Markstrom got hurt, and the UBC goalie was ready.
Yeah, there's got to be 500 goalies within 50 kilometers of here that played in the U Sports or played in the CHL. There's got to be someone under 30 who was a competent junior goalie who could come in and play. So I think the league will look at that right away. They're really good at reacting to. This was a Murphy's Law thing, right? Mrazek, you come in relief. Rule number 1 is you don't put yourself at risk.
What the hell was he doing?
I don't know. It was stupid. And I don't think Clifford even saw him until the point of impact. Like, he's looking back.
It's the last thing he's expecting.
He's not expecting it. He's actually looking back to see what kind of help he's got. But it's still a penalty. He still ran through him. It's still a 2-minute penalty. I thought they made the right call taking it down from a 5. But so now the beer league goalie comes in. And again, I said the same thing you did. Not taking anything away from him. He seems like a great guy. And he's got a memory that he'll never forget. Good for him. But as a league, you imagine if this was baseball and they brought in some 42-year-old to pitch to one team or something. I mean, so we've got to fix that. But the lack of response, they scored 2 quick goals, and I think the Leafs thought, well, it's going to be easy. And Carolina saw the 2 goals go in and said, we got to dig in right now or we're going to lose this game. And they scored a couple quick goals after that. So they had 4 breakaways in the first 5 minutes he was in there, I think.
But they outworked the Leafs remarkably in the third. Like, that was the embarrassing part of this. And this is where I go back to, like, and I've said it a million times. I said the difference between good and great is consistency.
Yeah.
And in this league, if you don't have consistency, especially when it matters most, you're not winning jack. And when I see this Leafs team, you see flashes. I've sat here and said this team, talent-wise, is as good as any in the league. The difference is the consistency. Dubas said the same thing. They're trying to find that consistency. And if it's not work ethic, what the hell is it?
Well, their top 6 forwards are as good as anybody's, almost anybody's.
Right.
Their bottom 6 forwards are all one, except for Kyle Clifford, are all one kind of player, a skating, working player.
Right.
That doesn't always work. But they don't have a physical response to anything. And their defense isn't great. Compared to other teams, it doesn't match up. So to me, again, looking on paper today, and I'll get all kinds of texts from GMs that are mad at this.
Right.
I have 2 top teams in the West. I might move Vegas up after today. But the 2 top teams in the West for me are St. Louis and Dallas. And the other teams Winnipeg is a step below. Nashville a step below. Vegas today might have moved up to
the Pacific
third
Division,
team.
everyone's kind of bunched up.
In the East, it's Washington, Tampa Bay, Boston, clearly number one teams for me. Pittsburgh a step below. Pittsburgh might have moved up into that top tier today. They did some good things. So I got to study it and spend more time on it before I go on the air on Wednesday. I may change my groupings, but those were my groupings going into the trade deadline.
First, Timmy, for you, I mean, I think you're being kind to the Leafs the other night a little bit. They stopped skating in that third period.
Yeah.
Like, it was
It's 6 shots on goal against a beer league.
But I will say, and I'm not making an excuse to the Leafs. I was embarrassed watching it, and what I like is Kyle doesn't make excuses either. But I will say this: I texted Jake Gardner and I texted Nino Niederreiter after the game. That might be the best third period I've ever seen a team play on the road. They just shut everything down. Swarming, and they were man-on-man a lot of the time and not letting anyone beat them. They forechecked, even though most guys would lie back. That was impressive. That's as good a period as I've ever seen defensively. No one had a chance to score.
Yeah, shorthanded, too. Like, they were banged up. And that's why I just keep going back to the work ethic thing. Like,
No, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, I thought, like, I when you look at that third, it's... Well, yes, Carolina deserves a lot of credit,
but you can't. So Kyle leaves the box and goes downstairs. We see him leave on TV. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have stayed to watch that.
Would have done it earlier.
Yes. I didn't like that they didn't pull a goalie when it was 6-3. I didn't like that he benched all the big dogs, even though they deserved it. I think you make your point with the big dogs another time, but if you can salvage the 2 points somehow, call a timeout and say, okay, top six, you're going back out. You've got to work harder. You got to do more. Try and win the game, or try and get a point out of the game. But if you watch it, it's mind-boggling that a team can get shut down like that. Like, they didn't get a sniff.
No.
I mean, Jason Spezza missed the net with one shot that might have gone in, but even there, I think the beer league guy had it. I think he would have got it if it had been on net.
And there was that scene, TV timeout, where Keefe is talking to the bench. And there are guys staring. I don't know what. Like, there was zero engagement in what Sheldon was saying to them. And
I didn't like that.
It spoke volumes, I thought.
I didn't like that either. The players weren't listening at all, and that's not a good sign. And I do think he's a good coach. I'm not sure that this could all go on him, but they weren't listening to him.
Do you think this leads to? I mean, the way that I'm reading this right now. And again, I'm just looking at tea leaves and. I see him standing pat and turning to the team and saying, let's see what you got. And if they don't show something, that there might be major changes in the offseason?
Well, we'll talk about that in the offseason. Like, what I hope happens, and I know people think because the Leafs fired me that I want the Leafs to lose. Well, I got 4 season tickets. We're a rights holder. Like, no one does better than we do if the Leafs are good. And they are fixable problems, and they showed in the second Pittsburgh game that they can play that style. They can play a close-checking style and hard-working style. But they've got to figure out, the key is what you said, consistency. They've got to figure out a way to do it consistently, and they got to figure it out fast. I mean, these 2 games in Florida are huge. Yeah. I mean, Tampa's a real test, and Florida's a team they have to finish ahead of.
The one thing that's becoming apparent with this team is how they look when they're behind. Like that Pittsburgh game, they were amazing. I don't want to take anything away from the Pittsburgh game last Thursday.
Right.
They had the lead basically the whole time. And this is a front-runner group that likes it when they're up and they're flying around.
And when you shut a team out, you normally have the lead most of the time.
Math. That's why he's on our trade deadline coverage today, kids.
Intelligence.
No, I know what you mean, though. Battling back, they did it a couple times earlier in the year, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been a while.
They can do this. They've got to make a mental commitment to playing the right way. And that's a cliche that people shake their heads at, but it means something to us in hockey. Like, playing the right way means being on the right side of the puck, executing your assignments, good puck security, 50-50 battles off face-offs. You got to win those. It means attention to detail. And they've got to play the right way, or this is going to be ugly the rest of the way.
Brian, I know there's a lot of teams making moves today hoping to win the Cup. According to your sources, what did you learn today from the league office?
Well, you mean about this incident or about the trade deadline?
No, I'm just talking about trade deadline. I'm talking how many Stanley Cups are normally awarded at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I say this every I check with the league every day. They're still only awarding 1 Stanley Cup this year. I check. I say it on every broadcast. Sorry, I didn't follow you.
Just to confirm. No, it's my bad. You've had a longer day than I have. You're allowed.
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
was the roll call.
Brian Burke, it is a joy to talk to you on days like this. Really appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure.
When you
thanks
could
for
have
having
told
me.
us where to go very easily, and none of us could have done a damn thing about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Time